This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome in to the latest edition of DocNJock, the first episode of 2021. I am the Doc, John Macaroon, joining me, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Happy New Year, cuz.
Happy New Year, cuz. How you doing, man?
It's good, man. Unfortunately for Detroit sports, fire up the computer, fire up the Twitter machine. What do you read first thing Wednesday morning? Number 7 overall draft pick, Killian Hayes, torn hip, and it's like, come on. If the Detroit sports scene didn't have bad luck, they'd have no luck at all, man. It's just devastating for a rookie because of the fact that he's drafted in the age of Corona, no summer league, thrust into a big-time rebuild. Everyone's looking at every shot and critiquing him right away, and now potentially if his hip requires surgery, he's going to be out for at least 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty brutal when the guy who you're looking to build your franchise around goes down so early in the season. You really didn't have a chance to really see what he has or what he's going to bring to the table and how he might help you in the future. And now he might be sidelined for the next 4 to 6 months. It's a tough pill to swallow. Detroit sports fans it's rough. Like that. There's no other words to say than it's really, really rough. I mean, look at you. You just spent the last 17 weeks covering one of the roughest organizations in all of the land in the Detroit Lions. And I mean, it doesn't get much better because they might not even get the pieces that they need when the draft rolls around. And I'm not trying to jump right into the draft already, but they're drafting 7 and there's some good quarterbacks. We all want a quarterback. The ones that really might help this team out, they might not have a shot at.
Yeah, it's what an interesting position too, number 7. And like I said, the situation is that, you know, the Pistons are in a rebuild and they are losing a bunch of games, which is fine, but it's unfortunate because one of the pieces is going to be injured. And basically what it means is because of the severity of the injury, potentially you're basically losing a lot of his rookie year. And it's just like, okay, his development has been halted. And it's unfortunate because the Pistons need each and every break possible to move forward. And to have this happen, it's just devastating. And like you said, coming off of what happened on Sunday with the Lions, especially the officiating, the way in which it went down, another loss, a close game, you just kind of feel like there's something in the air, something cosmically wrong in the world of Detroit sports, man. And it was crazy. It was a good game. And from the game before, boy, I guess coaching does matter because Darrell Bevell had his boys ready to go. But, you know, you can't give the Lions too much credit. Minnesota's defense is atrocious. Man, and they were without Dalvin Cook. I think if he was there, I think that the Vikings probably would have had at least a 2 to 3 touchdown win. But it was competitive. But you and I both saw it, and everybody that witnessed it was just like, really? Seriously? Another blown call? This one, I believe, it was of epic proportions. That's what in the game story I wrote. I thought it was really the worst call I've ever seen because straight up, Tracy Walker got flagged roughing the passer for making a simple tackle. If that's what roughing the passer is in the league, you're going to turn off a lot of fans because you can't execute a tackle. I feel bad for anybody coaching defense, playing on defense. You can't do anything about it. And then the response afterward from the referee was atrocious. I think it was among all the bad calls that we've seen, cuz, throughout the course of the podcast, darn near 390 episodes. That was the worst ever.
I mean, I just think it insults your intelligence as a sports fan. And that's my big issue with it all. Detroit had no business being in this game. Detroit had no business winning this game. And for the organization, it did you no good to win this game. I mean, if Dan Bailey could kick a field goal, that margin of victory that they won by would have been much, much greater. And Detroit wouldn't have even been in the game to that point. But here's the thing. When you have a safety blitz and he gets through and he gets in and he sacks Kirk Cousins for a 12-yard loss, and you throw a flag, and I was joking. I was watching the game, and I was joking. I was like, watch it be roughing the passer. I was like, there's no chance in hell it should be roughing the passer, but watch it be roughing the passer. And then it was roughing the passer. And I was like, how? How is this roughing the passer? It makes absolutely no sense. He did not land with all of his body weight on the quarterback. He actually rolled off to the side. There's no chance in hell that should have been a flag. Now, all that being said, I'm happy that they threw the flag because it allowed Minnesota to end up scoring a touchdown, which helped the Lions lose, which then helped their draft position. Fast forward a little bit through the game, and you have Marvin Jones make a spectacular catch and bring the ball down in the end zone. It's signaled a touchdown, and then they go to replay, and they say via the replay that it's not a touchdown. The whole purpose of the replay is to have indisputable evidence. There was no indisputable evidence that the ball did not touch the ground. The ball did jostle around, but he caught it with his crotch. Like, he caught it in his chest and in his arms, and then as he went to the ground, again, the ground can't cause the fumble, guys. Goes to the ground, gets bumped by the ground as he's landing in the end zone with his elbow while he still has possession of the ball. So right now it's a touchdown. And then the ball shifts down towards his leg where he catches it with his thigh and his crotch. Ball never touches the ground. It's a touchdown. And then for them to come out and be like, it's not a touchdown. Honestly, the NFL and this officiating crew insulted my intelligence so much. I'm not even mad that it happened. I'm more upset that you're insulting me as a sports fan because the Lions needed that. The Lions needed help to prevent them from hurting themselves, which as an organization, I think tells you all you need to know about the Detroit Lions, right? You have a chance to really improve your draft stock. You're playing a game that means absolutely nothing. It's not going to help you guys. You're drafting 13 compared to drafting 5, 6, or 7. It makes all the world of a difference for a team that's about to head into a massive rebuild. Yet, you want to go out there and you want to try to win this game. Makes no sense. So the referees actually saved the Lions from themselves. I'm grateful for that. But the fact that you insult my intelligence time and again with these made-up calls that we all witness. Like when is a catch a catch? When is a catch not a catch? These things are dumb. Like it's so frustrating to see these things happen to the Lions because it happens all the time. And I don't know if it's just one of those things that it's predicated on just being the Detroit Lions. So it's like, cool, we can get away with it because they're the Detroit Lions. Like, you wouldn't ever do this to New England. You wouldn't ever do this to a good organization that wins football games. Like, could you imagine something like this happening to the Chiefs? I can't. I don't think it would ever happen.
Not as regularly as it does. So Rod Wood, Lions management comes out and has a media session. So what's one of the things you say is, okay, can the Lions in the league do something about it to make sure that this gets ensured that doesn't keep happening? So that was the question that I specifically posed to him. One of my 2 questions I said was, hey, can you guys improve your relationship with the league in any way? I didn't say it was bad, but can you improve it in such a way that these calls can be looked at over the past decade so that it doesn't keep happening? And it was a layup. It was an opportunity for Rod Wood to say something kind of right to the league, right in front of everybody. But he said, and he took the super professional route, he said that the Lions have a great relationship with the league. And he reads all the reports from the officiating, and some things he agrees with, some things he doesn't. But he feels like, basically, you know what he said? In code, he basically said, look, officiating's bad and everybody deals with it. And we just want to win games. We want to get to the point where we don't have to worry about the officiating to win games, which is fine. But the severity of these calls is impeding you in most close games. A call like that is a game changer, meaning Lions would have gotten the ball. No touchdown for the Vikings. Now, the Marvin Jones play doesn't get too much impacted because the Lions went on and scored another touchdown anyway. But the Tracy Walker call significantly affects the game because it puts points on the board for the Vikings in a critical moment. So while I thought, his answer was super professional, it's not the right answer. The answer's got to be the league's got to do a better job consistently of putting forth the best officials out there, and we got to take a serious look at it. That's the right answer because of the fact that the Lions are getting screwed on so many calls, especially that one. There was no application of Tracy Walker driving him in. It's a tackle. Basically, how on earth in a split second is Tracy Walker supposed to execute a barrel roll there? I don't see that's not impossible. Basically, you're asking the defender to put his life at risk by trying to shift his body all in a certain way in a matter of seconds, and it's not taking into account the fact that Kirk Cousins went to the ground. He tried to protect himself. Mm-hmm. So you're just screwing defenders and props to Tracy Walker, man. He just handled it. And you know what the telling comment was after the game? And it's so disappointing to hear. Marvin Jones is asked, and he's like, you know what? To be honest, we're just used to it here by now. So why can you even get mad? It's like, it is what it is. He's frustrated, but he's like, in Detroit, we're accustomed to bad calls. It's just the way it is. So the players know it. Everyone knows it. It's like, okay, we're probably going to deal with one or two bogus calls. And Marvin Jones got a couple this year. Tracy Walker, you're right.
So
it insults the intelligence, and it's really embarrassing.
Here's a question for you, because you're in the room and you're around the guys, and you're at the media sessions, and you've had the year to really delve in and cover this team from start to finish. And I want to congratulate you on that. I know it's a lot of fun when you get to do it. I miss doing it myself. So you got to cover them, and you're there. Marvin Jones has basically waved the white flag. He's out of here, right? There's no chance in hell, no matter who the coach is, no matter who the GM is, he's coming back, right?
I would assume that if you have an opportunity to play out west, if a team calls you, you're going to leave, because he's been here 5 years, no real success. It's going to be a rebuild. Unless it's unfortunate to say, unless it's the last option, then he'll stay, because him and Matthew are really tight. I mean, they're brothers, but
his personal success has been like he has had his best seasons here.
Yes. But his family's in California. You got to look at competitive balance. You also got to look at it, too, that the next general manager, is it really wise to invest a couple more years in a plus 30 wide receiver when you can get them? I mean, basically, Darrell Bevell said it in a media session. The depth at wide receiver coming out of college, these college offenses are really securing and teaching these receivers how to run routes. Now, are they going to be better than Marvin Jones? No. But right now, if you're Marvin Jones, you have to understand the room. You understand that defense is going to be completely blown up. Potentially Matthew Stafford's going to be gone, which I still give it a 50-50 proposition. If you get an offer out west, potentially from the Niners, from the Chargers, Raiders,
I hope you're so right. Because the longer this goes on, I'm just like, especially with where they're drafting and just kind of the way I see the draft kind of playing out. And look, it's very early in this process. We're like nowhere near where we can really make any definitive statements, but just kind of seeing how this draft is probably going to play out. You got Lawrence going number 1, Justin Fields probably going number 2 to the Jets. The Jets really control all of this. Then you have Atlanta at 4, who's in a very similar situation to Detroit, and I can see them taking, Wilson from BYU, and after that, it's Detroit at 7, and I just don't know if the quarterback that you want is going to be there at 7, and you don't have the draft capital to move up to really get that quarterback. So I think I could see them bringing Matt Stafford back again, but the problem is I don't know if you'll be drafting this high again. That's the thing. Like, you were drafting 3rd last year. Probably should have took your quarterback then, whether it was Tua or whether it was Herbert. I wanted Tua, and I might have been wrong on that, but you should have took your lottery ticket and cashed it in on a quarterback then. Instead, you draft a cornerback, and now you're drafting 7 this year. And yeah, the quarterbacks are great, but you might not be in a situation where you can get that quarterback that's going to be your franchise guy, the guy that you want. And that's so frustrating. Like, I'm with you, man. I agree they should move on from Matt Stafford. I think they should trade him, and they should get a little bit more draft capital for this draft. And even if that means going into next season with Chase Daniels as your quarterback, I don't care.
You're full on tank, right? Well, in essence, based on how the Lions have performed, number 8 pick in 2019, number 3 pick in 2020, number 7 going on here in 2021. So you're doing the right things. You're getting to the position where you're drafting high each and every year. So you're on the right path. Now the situation has presented itself where the Lions are going to do a full-on search. They're looking for their next head coach and general manager. They're doing the interviews. And I think it's good that you're hearing rumors come out that potentially the Lions are interested in John Schneider. They're interested in all these potential general managers that have had experience, had winning experience.
Hold on. Before we get to John Schneider, because I want to talk to you about John Schneider, because I seen the Twitter, I seen our Twitter feed, and you seem to have some issues with John Schneider. So I want to talk about that. But before we get there, I do want to do a quick revisit of episode 371.
Yes.
And that was the episode before the Lions season took off.
Wow.
And we did a Lions over under. And I just want to go back and I want to revisit this because this is funny. I wrote myself a sticky note and I put it up here in my office at the condo. And I was like, I have to remember to do this the week after the Lions season ends, which is this show, obviously. So episode 388. So I want to delve into this real fast. We're just going to kind of go through it, and we're just going to laugh at ourselves because we were all over the place. You were much closer than I. I apparently was drinking all of the juice, and there was probably some gin in that juice because I don't know what I was smoking. All right, so Lions over under real fast. Total wins, 6.6 is where they said it. We both went over. We both missed.
But that one, we can't take the full knock because of the fact there were some major injuries. I think that this team probably max out with Trey Flowers, with Kenny Galladay, probably a 7-win team. You could squeeze out 2 more wins out of this. You could realistically say, max, this was a 7-9 team. Injuries got them. And then obviously blowing out your head coach. So Vegas, look at Vegas, 6.6. You can never, don't fall Vegas, guys. Don't ever do that.
All right, so chances to win the NFC North title. So you were dead money. You said under, I said over. Obviously, they had no chance in hell in winning the NFC North this year.
I remember specifically. I said 0. Can we rate it less than 0? I remember that specifically.
You did. Chances to make the playoffs, 17.4%. We both went over. We were both way out of bounds here.
Man, I can't
Not
believe
even
it.
close.
No playoffs again, man. It's terrible.
Super Bowl chances. This is where it gets really funny. You said they were at 0.2%. So not even 1%. They were at 0.2%. You said under. I said over. Both of us. Well, I was off. You were on. Now, here's what's really funny. So Vegas had them selected to pick number 7 in the 2021 draft.
Yeah.
Like you said, don't mess with Vegas. Vegas doesn't mess around. You said under, I said over. We were both wrong, but in the end, you were much, much closer and over/under with the Lions.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was interesting to go back and look at it after the season kind of played out, and just to kind of see where we were, and then kind of where we ended up.
It just played out to be a season that was crazy, in that really the fascinating aspect that now you're hearing from Jeff Okudah, you're hearing from a lot of the players, and obviously Chris Spielman let it out too. They're developed a serious us versus them mentality. The players did not buy in. They felt like, obviously, Tracy Walker's like, dude, I played well here at this position. Why are you putting me here? And unfortunately, Matt Patricia came in and said, do things my way. I'm the one rearing the ring. You guys are the ones that better listen or you're going to be gone. And unfortunately, here's the problem. I can't fault Matt Patricia because he's got the bling bling. He's seen success. The players here in Detroit obviously haven't, but I do think you got to bend a little bit. Like if Tracy Walker comes to you and says, yo, look, man, my position's here. I think I do best here. And you're like, no, you're going to do this. And you guys are going to have to do this. And you don't mix it well. You don't garner the respect of the players, especially when you have 10 players that understand and have, understanding of what you're trying to do. And you still can't win the locker room. That's really bad. And
Don't you feel like Patricia just kind of is running an archaic system, though? Like, if you look at every good defense, it starts with pressure up front.
Yes.
And Patricia doesn't provide pressure up front. He basically just has guys standing at the line, keeping the line stagnant, making sure nobody can get through. Every now and then a guy will tackle a quarterback or wrap a quarterback up, but that's about it. Everything else is predicated on what that secondary can do and holding those wide receivers off. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. The new NFL is all about getting your edges to the quarterback and causing the quarterback as much pain as possible.
Absolutely. I just wish Matt Patricia would come out and kind of answer some questions regarding why he felt that defense was going to win, because it obviously turned out to be one of the worst defenses in franchise history. Most yards, points. It was really disappointing on a lot of fronts to see that defense married to an offense that performed well. It just basically gave the team no chance to win. Mm-hmm. Disappointing top to bottom. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. The cushions, the receivers being wide open, the Jelani Tavai, falling flat on his face time in and time out. No team has 250-pound linebackers trying to tackle everybody. No team has linebackers that slow. It's just unbelievable the manner in which this team was built and put together. And yeah, on the other side, Bob Quinn understood what to do on the offensive line. He's picked 2 or 3 players that are going to be here for a while. So he understood that side of the ball. He kind of figured that out. The defensive side, which is crazy because that's the side his boy understands, they had no clue what to do. And it's all-time bad, not only probably for the Lions, but league-wide. This is an all-time bad defense.
All right, tell me why you hate John Schneider.
Okay.
And then I want to play a game with you where I'm going to let you pick the head coach and I'm going to let you pick the GM from a list of names that Rod Wood has said that they've kind of finalized.
Absolutely.
So I want to know why you hate John Schneider.
No, I don't hate John Schneider. I officially said that I'd be okay with it. Obviously affiliated with the Seattle Seahawks, would obviously have good ties with Robert Saleh, and I think that would be fine. But here's kind of the pump the brakes kind of moment here because everybody was like, oh, the GM from Seattle, that'd be awesome because he's the guy. Remember first, number one, Pete Carroll is the guy with the final say. So John Schneider's along for the ride and obviously a teammate and part of the selection. But his last 4 years drafting haven't been the best. You've ridden the coattails of having Russell Wilson and talented, but you did make good moves in regards to DK Metcalf. So there's a hodgepodge collectively of the draft picks, but he did have a couple major busts. And you and I talked about it like, whoa, Malik McDowell at State, there's whispers that this guy's a major malcontent and didn't finish out of Michigan State, was having issues. Seattle drafts him, and he turns out to be an epic bust, and that's on his record. But more importantly, I don't hate the fact that the Lions are interested. That's good. But it reeks of, maybe an agent kind of filtering some info to a reporter to kind of leverage a contract negotiation. And that's kind of what it reeks of, because if you're John Schneider, what on earth would you go and start doing the comparison between the Seahawks and the Lions? That makes no sense. So it reeks of leverage. It reeks of this party, a certain party probably giving some information so that he can leverage himself for the job that he already has. So that's where I was thinking on that front. But at the same time, the part that I hate is the fact that, it's going to take a little bit of legal wrangling to potentially get him because of the fact that he doesn't have final control. The Lions can squeak in there, but Seattle can deny it. He doesn't have to come and do the interview. And potentially, if you want him, if the Seattle Seahawks play hardball and invoke this tampering new rule that's been put in place, you might have to trade for him. And for the Detroit Lions to give up a draft pick or compensation to go out and get the general manager, I'm not for it. The team only has 5 draft picks. So potentially they can get through on some, legal wrangling in regards to what job he has and the fact that he could get full control here. They can kind of maybe bypass that a little bit. But Seattle can, really muck up the wording of the rules here and potentially force the Lions to give up compensation to take somebody that is employed in the league. So he's a good candidate, fair candidate, but it seems like it would be a little bit more of a headache than just like, all right, let's sign on a dotted line. Not that easy. Pump the brakes.
No, it's definitely not that easy.
Not that easy, and it also reeks of potentially this dude doesn't want to come here to Detroit to rebuild. It reeks of, hey, oh, look, Seattle, Detroit wants me. They're potentially, look at this offer they want to give me. They want to give me 5 years, $40 million. Yeah, my contract's coming up after next year. Why don't you top that?
Well, that's the thing, too. Pete Carroll just signed a long-term extension.
Yep.
I think until, 2025, 2026. So he's looking for his extension.
Yep.
He's looking for much more money because he's one of the lower-paid GMs in the league.
Exactly.
All right, so I want to do this real quick because Rod Wood's come out and he's kind of said, hey, we've got our list. We kind of know who we want. There's some shuffling of kind of the order that we want to go in and who we think is our guy. But we are getting ready to conduct final interviews for our GM candidates, and they're now getting into their coaching search, which I find a little bit weird. You would think that you'd want the GM to be at least a part of this, but there are ways that you can kind of back channel these things, so I'm not going to make too much of it. But I'm going to give you a list of names for a GM because I'm going to go GM first because I just think it makes more sense to hire your GM before you hire your coach. And I want to know, because you're in the room, you're there, you're taking it all into account, and you know a little bit about all of these guys. So first off, Louis Riddick, former Eagles Director of Pro Personnel, former Texans GM Rick Smith, former Falcons GM Thomas Dimitroff and his cool hair. You've got the Saints Vice President and Assistant General Manager of Pro Personnel, Terry Fontenay, Saints Vice President and Assistant GM of College Personnel, Jeff Ireland, or you've got the Rams Director of College Scouting, Brad Holmes, or the Vikings Assistant GM, George Patton. Now, I don't know why the Seahawks Assistant GM, Trent Kitchener, is not on this list, but we'll throw Trent Kitchener in there as well. Out of all of those guys, who's your guy?
Okay. Now, obviously, I do think that Ed Dodds potentially is going to be on the list, potentially Borgonzi, once the playoffs kind of roll through here for the Saints, for the Chiefs, and for the Indianapolis Colts. But of the list that you provided...
Well, you know what? No, add those guys to the list, too.
Yeah,
add those guys to the list,
okay.
too.
Yeah, definitely. My number one that I've clearly stated would be Ed Dodds. I think that this is an individual that's been part of a lot of good organizations. And for me, obviously, everybody knows it, going to repeat it. Anybody that has a tie to Robert Saleh, I'm great with. I think that potentially what you're hearing, and as this day drops, you're going to listen to this podcast, you're hearing a Lebanese voice, a Lebanese media member alongside a strong Polish Lebanese media member. So you see that? I kind of put you into the Lebanese family.
I see what you did there. Yeah,
exactly. So anytime that a pro-Lebanese situation can happen, you never know. Robert Saleh could do the interview, and this podcast dropped. You're listening to it, and all of a sudden you get the report from Detroit Podcast that Saleh is the guy. Because you heard, and he hinted at it, if they find a guy that they love, they're offering the deal. And I really do think, potentially, stay tuned, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you could be hearing an announcement of a head coach for the Detroit Lions, because Robert Saleh is going to blow it away because he knows what he's going to say. He's going to come in there screaming his head off and passionate. He's going to say, I want this job. He's like, this is my dream job. I want to come home. I want to bring he's the only guy that could convey that message through the Zoom meeting where you go, holy shit, fuck, let's sign him right now. Let's just offer him the contract right now. You know it because he's going to be screaming through it. He's going to be passionate. He's going to know right now. He's going to tell them how to get Trey Flowers to get 5 sacks. He's going to say, okay, Austin Bryant needs to do this. Dude, Jeff Okudah needs to be here. Tracy Walker's got to be put here. You get me a couple more pieces. And he's going to sell them on winning right away. And then, boom, you keep potentially Darrell Bevell. And I think the other question that I asked Rod Wood was pretty fair, too. I said, do you think this needs to be a rebuild or a retool? And I feel like it needs to be blown up completely because, we're not attached to it. We've seen losing 14 wins in 3 years. That don't do nothing. You got the Packers winning 13 wins every year. And then they turn it over. They draft a quarterback in the first round. They don't even give Aaron Rodgers weapons, and he's still winning. So I'm okay with blowing it up. But if you take the stance of a little bit of hope, you could keep that offense sort of intact, potentially upgrade the wide receivers, one more running back via free agency as a veteran, draft with every one of those 5 picks being somewhat of a productive player. You could get to 7 wins right away, but you saw that schedule, bro. I sent it to you, and I almost shit my pants. I was like, cuz I don't even think Robert Saleh should look at that schedule because it's a 6-win schedule. Tops. It's brutal. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Arizona's going to be better. Potentially, because it may be, and we'll talk about it further, we'll get more in depth with it next time, you might just go with the strategy of a complete rebuild and a tank job in 2021 because that schedule is brutal. But I think Saleh Dodds, I think Saleh Dimitroff works because of his ties with Atlanta. I like what Dimitroff did there. I mean, you can't blame Dan Quinn. You can't blame Dimitroff for the mistakes of Dan Quinn in the defense and Kyle Shanahan forgetting to take time off the clock. You remember that Super Bowl cause we were screaming like, dude, run the ball. Why are you not running the ball? That's all you had to do. You were winning, and you're just sitting here giving it all that much time. So Dimitroff, experience counts. Potentially you go with a home run threat, a home run with Schneider. But anybody that has ties to Saleh, I'm on board. What about you? What gets you excited and saying, okay, I can be comfortable? Because, yeah, the head coach is important, but I think a lot of people more in line with looking at the talent on this roster, they're going to be looking to see which general manager is going to be drafting the picks here.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of where I'm most interested. Now, Ed Dodds, for those who don't know, Colts assistant general manager, has done a lot of really good things. The Indianapolis Colts are a very good team. They're lacking that one piece at quarterback, which is why Phillip Rivers is kind of there as a Band-Aid right now. As far as GM goes, my short list goes Thomas Dimitroff. I like Ed Dodds and probably Jeff Ireland. If you have a chance at talking to Trent Kitchener's probably my guy, but I don't have a problem with Dodds. I don't have a problem with Dimitroff, Ireland, or like I said, Kitchener if you have a chance at talking to him. If I had to pick one guy, it would probably be Dodds just because he's had to work with, I think, a little bit less than some of these other guys, right? So the Saints at this point are just a machine. The Falcons built themselves up to be a pretty solid machine. Plus, living in Atlanta is great. So you can go recruit your free agents that way, and you can bring people in. And Dimitroff's did a pretty good job with the draft. But I just think if you can get a guy who can make a cold weather city like Detroit a destination for free agents, and you can get your rookies to stay past their rookie contract, that's kind of saying something, And I like the way that the Indianapolis Colts play football. It is a solid defense, and they have Jonathan Taylor was a guy that I was huge on this year. Jonathan Taylor was the running back that I wanted for the Detroit Lions. Do you realize Jonathan Taylor finished 3rd in rushing this year behind Derrick Henry, who was an absolute savage, and I think it was Aaron Jones finished 2nd. Then it was a rookie, with Jonathan Taylor. And like he just has an eye for talent. He's making some of these calls, and I like that. And then as far as obviously head coach for you is obviously Robert Saleh. But my short list would go Robert Saleh and then probably Eric Bieniemy. I have a lot of questions about Bieniemy. And then I'll go Arthur Smith and then Dan Campbell, who used to play here in Detroit. But I look, Robert Saleh is my guy. So I think we're in lockstep with a Dodd-Saleh marriage. I think we'd be both ecstatic about that.
Ooh, I can't wait. I can't wait to see how it plays out. Fun offseason. It doesn't stop because the NFL don't stop. Now it's draft season. Pick number 7, the head coach, the GM. Still a lot of coverage. Make sure to tune into SI, All Lions, and the Detroit Sports Podcast Network for all things regarding the Detroit Lions. As we break it all down, we'll react to it. The head coach, please don't worry about my excitement. It'll come through. You'll hear about it if it's Robert Saleh. But there's other candidates, too, that I think I'd be okay with. I really would like if potentially Daboll got on the list, but I think he's probably earned himself a big-time job with what Buffalo's doing. I think that there's probably a couple candidates I wouldn't like. Obviously, the Marvin Lewis. Look, we can openly say it. He's not getting the job. I think people kind of sometimes forget their common sense and let their emotions kind of sue through. If you're the first guy to get the interview, that pretty much is telling what's going on. Marvin Lewis is not getting the job. He's just probably there to give information regarding what he thinks of the defense and things like that. Lewis, I guarantee you, less than 0% chance that he gets the job. Next week, we'll tease it. And I know probably Darrell Bevell did not do enough to earn the job, but I can make a case and an argument that if you're going to go through a rebuild and you go through that stance, Darrell Bevell is the perfect, quote-unquote, Ron Gardenhire type of guy that you keep around for 3 years, kind of build up the team, and then go get the next hot guy if you don't believe it. If there wasn't a Robert Saleh out there, I could make the argument Darrell Bevell earned the respect of these players. They looked way more relaxed by like 200%. He's a guy that understands offense. That offense was purring. He got Stafford, his PFF grade way up after Patricia was fired. Stafford likes him. So, and don't discount the fact that, Bevell might not be gone from the organization. Saleh at the head coach, Bevell the OC, and Dan Quinn potentially the DC. That's not bad. That's not a bad combination in any way, shape, or form that might get you, the coaching staff of the future. So we'll make that argument probably in the coming weeks that, Darrell Bevell, if he doesn't get the job, maybe could have been a guy that you roll with in a transition. But speaking of transition, Michigan, cuz we're sitting here today recording this podcast, and there's an offer on the table that Jim Harbaugh hasn't signed, and many people are like, dude, what's going on here? Is Jim Harbaugh flirting with the NFL? Why hasn't he signed it? At what point should Ward Manuel pull it back? Because, quite frankly, and it's, I guess, if you're Jim Harbaugh, you do it. You test the waters. You see if the Chargers like you. You see if the Jets like you. But if you're Michigan, you basically have kind of lost cachet and respect by the fact that you seem and act and look desperate in the manner in which you're like, okay, Jim, here's a contract and just sign it whenever you feel like it. Oh, you might not sign it? Oh, okay. It's like, that's kind of not how typically strong organizations run. It's like, Jim, here's an extension. Boom. Or, in my opinion, my humble opinion, my little Sparty heart says, you look at Jim Harbaugh's track record and you want to keep him around till 2026? Are you kidding me? You just devalued your brand by 80%. Nobody likes the fact that you even offered it. So Ward Manuel and his chummy relationship with Harbaugh, I think, has devalued the Michigan brand by a lot.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he's coming back. Like I told you the other day, the moment that Don Brown was let go, basically told you all you needed to know, that Harbaugh was, or at least the plan was for Harbaugh to come back. Now, what I find interesting is the San Diego Chargers end up letting go Anthony Lynn. And that's the one team I think that Harbaugh has a lot of interest in. That's the one place. He seems to really like Southern California. His family seems to like living out there. It seems to be the one spot. If it's not Michigan, it's going to be somewhere in SoCal. And it would probably be the Los Angeles Chargers. And it'd probably be that move to LA for him and his family. Now, if I'm Ward Manuel, I better have a really good backup plan if Harbaugh decides to, at the last minute, leave. Because what are you going to do? At some point, you've got to start to move on. You got to get ready to prepare for next season. You're already seeing a lot of head coaches either fired or take new jobs. I mean, Steve Sarkisian is playing in a bowl game, and he's getting ready to take over a new gig in Texas. So you've got head coaches getting ready to fall, and you have to figure out who that next guy is going to be if it's not Jim Harbaugh. Now, if you are an athletic director, much like a GM, you better have a short list. It better be about 4 or 5 head coaches that you know you can get and that you want to get. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how this plays out. I feel like it's done a total disservice to that position as head coach of the Michigan football team. It's done a total disservice to the actual Michigan football program. The fact that Harbaugh just keeps dragging his feet and Ward Manuel are dragging their feet through the mud with this entire process. At some point, somebody has to put on some big boy pants. Whether you both don't want each other here, somebody's just got to say it. You know, like Harbaugh's like, I don't want to be here anymore. And Ward's like, cool, we don't really want you here anymore. So let's just have a mutual parting of the ways. Or if you both want to be here and Ward feels like Jim is the perfect fit for the head coach of this football program, which I don't know if he is anymore, then you both just have to have this mea culpa and talk about it. And then we just need to finalize a deal and we need to move on. And if Ward's come to the table and saying, hey, we're offering you 3 and basically everything helps protect the school, and Jim's like, cool, I had a $7 million deal. I want a little bit more and I want some protections. Just meet in the freaking middle. Give them $5 million and then you both have outs for each other. It's really that simple. Like, people make things way more complicated than they really need to be. Just meet in the middle and call it a day. That way we can all just kind of move on with what has to happen. I don't think Jim Harbaugh coming back to the University of Michigan is the best idea. And we've talked about what Dabo was able to do in Clemson. It took about 7 years for him to really get that program going. And once he got his quarterback, which was Deshaun Watson, things really took off. And then he got Trevor Lawrence and things really took off. So one of those things where sometimes patience is rewarded. I don't know if it's going to get rewarded because the way Harbaugh has portrayed himself this season, it's been this like gradual decline to where it's just completely bottomed out this year. And he's not the same guy. And I don't know if he's the same guy I want leading my program.
Absolutely.
So
Just disappointing all the way
think,
around.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm in lockstep with you where it's one of those things where it has devalued this program.
Tough times for Michigan. I wonder if an NFL team will give him a chance, because it just doesn't seem like you want to roll with a coach, especially in today's culture. Even though you and I may be a little bit more old school, these players want kind of more of the hip-hop coach. The coach is going to be rah-rah. Jim Harbaugh wears out his welcome. I just don't think you're going to draw the big-name players to play for a guy like Jim Harbaugh. I think that it's just his time is done.
He is a rah-rah guy, though.
What's that?
I think he is a rah-rah guy. I think he's just sometimes a little bit too much rah-rah. Look, we both agree he does wear out his welcome and he does burn through his players because he rides them so hard.
Yeah.
But maybe he's learned from that. Maybe this new, more low-key Jim Harbaugh is better suited for the NFL. I don't know. What I can tell you is what he did in San Francisco was absolutely amazing. What he did with the talent he had, and then if you look at the slow demise of what happened in San Francisco, that wasn't his fault. That was the GM, and that was the front office. And then it became a lot of push and pull between the front office and the head coach. And then all these things really came out about how he's a little bit difficult to work with. And we both believe he's a little bit difficult to work with. But he is an incredible football mind. Maybe this experience at the NFL and then coming to Michigan and just things not really working out, maybe this has kind of helped right his ship a little bit. And maybe he can go to the Chargers and maybe he can turn that. Like, I don't think the Chargers are a bad football team. Like, you have your quarterback of the future. You have good running backs. You have a defense that's okay. It does need to get tweaked and it does need to get better. But, I mean, that seems like it's a place where you could step in and you can make a couple tweaks, and next thing you know, they're contending for a playoff spot. And then you keep making tweaks, and then in 3 years, next thing you know, they're battling for an AFC championship and possibly a Super Bowl spot, you know? I think that would be the one spot he could go to, and you would see an immediate impact.
Yeah, buddy. Good podcast. I've enjoyed recapping Detroit sports, the Lions, Michigan. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. News will break. Make sure to follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We will break it down. When the news breaks, look to Detroit Podcast for the fairest, funnest, and most entertaining Detroit sports Twitter site. I think we've had a lot of fun lately. And if you go to the likes page, I think that the likes side of Twitter, you'll see, I think one of the funniest tweets I got in 2020, someone wrote, Detroit's a shithole, but they're lucky to have you. And and I think it encompasses everything that's great about Detroit, is that people from the outside are like, okay, look, it may be a rough sports town, but at least there's someone out there like you crazy enough to cover it and try to do as much as you can with it. And it's been a pleasure and an honor that you guys have let us be part of the Detroit sports scene through podcasting. And it's amazing. Cuz make sure to download and subscribe Adam's couple other podcasts, DocNJock Wrestling Podcast, where we break it all down in the world of wrestling, and the Practice Squad, where him and Brendan really talk about things that are really kind of entertaining and funny and real interesting, in that our guy Brendan has become a hermit and Adam's trying to coach him. Adam has become his life coach, and we're trying to help him out and figure stuff out. So listen to his last couple episodes. They were entertaining as I was working out. Good stuff, sir. I look forward to the next episode, my friend.
I love being B's life guru, which I should be nobody's life guru ever.
Make sure to hit the subscribe button. We'll talk again next week.